Here we go, folks. Another episode of the Big Bear. Should buy a new one so you never have to work on it for a while. We're gonna do the back brakes, hopefully. They make a ton of noise. Get that hubcap to pop off there. There she goes. We need to remove this hub here. So we'll pull that cotter pin off. We'll take the axle nut off, and that should slide off. And then remove the bolts here. See if we can't get that drum to slide off. There's about a 97.69% chance that we are not going to torque this. We'll have to look up the torque spec, but just in case we don't, we will mark it and assume that the guy at the factory torqued it, and we'll also assume it's never been off. That's a lot of assumptions. So we'll mark that. Thread's only starting one spot, so it's got to go back there, you know what I mean? If we put it back on the same spline. A lot of ifs going on here. 24 mil it looks like. Oh, she slipped right off. Okay, is this a washer? It is. Okay. Unhook that, we'll stick that to the side. Okay, it's like a seal there. Interesting. Okay, we're going to make a mark where this lines up. I don't know how coarse the splines are. It likely doesn't 100% make a huge difference. Okay, there's a seal here. We'll probably end up torquing it, I'm sure. I don't know what's behind here as far as all that stuff goes. Okay. Here we are, folks. Like a red grease on it there. We'll grab a 10 mil. We'll zippy zap all those off. I think there's a big O-ring around here. I believe I have this seal, and I believe I have that O-ring. And I think that's all I bought based off from the exploded diagram. We'll find out once we get it apart. We'll replace what we have to, reuse what we have to. And we'll just make things up as we go. I guess we can back the brake adjuster all the way off here. Well, we're right here. We have one for the handbrake and we have one for the foot brake. This is for the foot brake. We definitely don't want to break that rod. That one's turning pretty hard. We'll get some goo to spray on that. And what that'll do, that'll just give us a little bit more courage to turn it a little bit harder. We actually have some stuff at home now, some blaster. Not a sponsor, but we've got it. These probably won't turn hard, but we'll give them a little spritz just in case. Just because we're here. I don't know what this bolt is, but it's loose. For the records, Mac Tool gun, Mac Tool socket, 10 mil, Carlisle extension. I know you guys really pick on me about my at-home tools. Definitely did not need to spray those. 2, 4, 6 of those 6mm bolts. Probably gonna need something to pry behind here with. That's all the bolts, right? Try to back this wing nut off again. This keeps getting tight. Maybe we don't need to. Let's see. We don't want to get up, so we'll try to use this It's not gonna work, it's just gonna bend the flange. I don't even know if the brakes are bad, but they make a lot of noise. A lot of harsh squealing. Almost metal to metal. It's to the point where I just quit using them. And I mostly use the front brakes. It's full-time four-wheel drive, so if you use any of the brakes, through the drivetrain, it will slow it all down. At least that was my buddy Rick's theory. He had a four-wheel drive truck, and he said you only need one working brake as long as the rest of the wheels are on the ground. Okay, all that's loose, seems to be backed off all the way. I did bring us out a Mac Tools pry bar, mini one. I'll just name it all so that way you guys quit picking on me. You can pick on me, I don't care. I know my home tool kit's pretty pathetic. Oh, look at this. Yep, that's that big O-ring I bought. Big orange one. Wow, what in the world's that thing? So this must have been just a cover. Okay. I think one of my viewers said that the brakes probably aren't bad, that he has one of these machines and they just get full of dirt and junk. I do have a set of brake shoes, providing they're correct. Okay, so that has to be the drum. We do have a service manual we could look in. I visited it a little bit before I came out. Okay, so this is a toothed washer. Does not appear to be beveled, so it can probably go on either way. Ah, and our viewer was correct. The shoes are perfectly intact. Well, what we got here, boys? Man, they make noise like you wouldn't believe. Lots and lots of noise. It's a leading trailing style brake system. I don't know, I suppose they could be wicked hard over the years. I know they're wicked cheap to buy. Okay, let's see. Do we have to pull the springs to pull the shoes? Do they have yeah, they got a little bit of a lip there, right? Yeah, a little bit of a lip. Let's see if we get this side to just come over just like so. Give them the clap. So yeah, there's a ridge right here that locks them on this pin. These are the OG Yamaha. I'll be dipped. I thought they were going to be way, boy, they sounded horrific. I don't know if the factory grease they use is red, but that's what this has on it. This here's our seal. Their shoes. Okay, and there's some grease in here. There's also a seal here behind that backing plate, but I did give the wheel a good wiggle prior to taking it apart to make sure this outer bearing felt good, and it did. I can't see any sense in diving any deeper. We could also, oh, I see, it has a wear indicator out here that I probably could have used as a pointer, a little arrow, as a wear indicator as to when your brakes are junk. Because this is how you take the slack out of the brakes, is out here on these adjusters. You know, because there's no like star wheel adjuster like there is on something like we're used to working on. It's a pretty primitive brake system. Like I say, it would be similar, instead of a like a dual servo setup, this would be similar to a leading trailing setup where you have, you know, a fixed pivot and a wheel cylinder that just pushes it out, or in this case, you know, mechanical lever, as they say in Canada. All right, well, let's get this cleaned up. I'm just gonna stick the new shoes on it because we have it apart. And, you know, these could be, you know, all glazed and all glazed over like my eyes in the 70s. But I was born in 79, so that's pretty short-lived. Let's clean this up. We'll do the new seal. We'll clean out our drum. And then we'll get after it. We'll take it for a little rip. Has a maximum spec in case you want to turn it. We're not even going to measure it because even if it's out of spec, we're not going to replace it. So there. Man, I don't know what they had on here for grease, but Brake Clean doesn't even touch it. Just makes it all gooier. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I do know this bolt here on the back side doesn't really go to anything. The one that I said is loose. Perhaps it's a drain. If you suspect you have water in your shoes, because there's a vent hose here. This vent hose goes around, heads uptown somewheres. Probably one of the hoses that comes up by the air filter. There's several that go up to the air intake at the very top of the air box. Now one's for the carb. Oh, okay, must be one's for the rear diff, and then the other one must be for the brakes here. I think what we'll do, just because we're right here, is we will pop this lever off here. We need 2 10 mils. We only brought out one. We got the Oogie Dougie right here. We'll utilize it. There's that. Because we'll just grease up this pivot. Just because we're right here. It looks like we're missing one piece. So where this hub goes on, there's so this retainer, this is just the bearing retainer, is all the seals inside here. So we have this, the axle seal, the bearing, and then this retainer. So we're going to leave that well enough alone. And then that collar or that washer goes on here, and there's supposed to be an O-ring, but we don't have that, and I did not buy that. So there. So we're going to be missing a part, which I guess is fine. Oops, I was kind of hoping I could just push that out of there. But I should go grab some needle nose. Kind of an awkward position. You're making it real awkward, man. Okay, so on the back of this, on the back of these splines, there is a timing mark. If you believe me, I'll show you. What's that noise? Oh, it's the impact. So on the back of this, there's a dot. Okay, I can't show you. There's a dot there, and then there's also a dot on the shaft here. And then if your brakes are wearing out and you're selling your machine, you can take this off, move it to where it looks good, and then put it back on and put it on Craigslist and say, no low ballers, I know what I got. Ooh, slippery. So there's our shaft there. We're just going to clean that up, lube it up a little bit, just because we're this close. There's a couple O-rings in there that look like they're in great shape still. We're going to use some John Deere approved chassis grease. Lube this baby up. Now your dot that's on the back side, you got to make sure that's facing the direction that it was, or you're going to have a heck of a time trying to line it up. Looks like the grease that was coming out of the clutch there on Vanessa's four-wheeler. I guess that's what we determined that was. Some clutch grease. from the primary. Alright, now I'm just going to line up my marks back on the back side and get this thing back together, and I think that's about all we have to do. I'm not going to go nuts here. That feels like it turns really nice. So the makers at Yamaha must know about the Craigslist scam, because the pointer actually only goes on in one direction. There is a flattened out portion of the spline that it has to line up with, so there's that. Guess if you're in the market to rip somebody off, you're gonna have to cut it off and move it and re-weld it, or spend $13 on a set of new shoes, you know. Or just tell them it might need new shoes. You know, it's like selling a car on the Craigslist. It just needs a sensor. Well, if it was that simple, dude, you would have fixed it before you sold it, right? Exactly. Spring's a little goofed up there. Okay, that's that, I guess. Let's put a very light amount of lubrication on our moving parts. Okay, get our new shoes. These are the same brand, it's the same company that made the muffler, that Caltrek or whatever it is, but a lot of you folks in the comment section commented that it wasn't a bad brand. I don't know. I don't deal with this kind of stuff. The spring is inverted on the other one, but I guess it probably doesn't matter. Spring to spring. We'll see. These little guys fit down in the groove. Whoa, whoa, fella. That's not offset, right? No, they're dead in the middle. Okay, hold that there. All right. Looks fast. Opens and closes. That's good. I wiped my paw prints off it with some brake clean. The OEM configuration was like so. So the springs are a little different. Without measuring the shoe thickness, it looks exactly like what we took off. These also feel that they're aluminum, and those appear to be aluminum. I don't care as long as they don't squeal. Alright, I already cleaned out the drum. Now, evidently, this washer is supposed to go on according to service info, and then that's where this O-ring allegedly is supposed to be. I did look to double check to make sure service info was right. I looked up the exploded view on Yamaha Parts Nation, and they show the seal, the bearing, the retainer. They call it a collet. Service data calls it a washer, and then they showed an O-ring too. So it's supposed to be there. Next time I put in an order to Yamaha, I won't order one. I'll tell you that I will. I might order one, I don't know. I wish they just gave the part or the dimensions of this O-ring, but so here's the big seal. So I got this from Yamaha OEM. This seal here. Might be easier to reuse the old one. Probably go on easier. Probably was totally reusable, but the fact of the matter is, I suspected we might need that, so I bought it. Trying to be a forward thinker. What might we need? I said. Looking at the exploded view, though, I wasn't 100% certain that it had an O-ring in there, because it was the way it was in the diagram. I guess I just didn't look hard enough. Alright, we'll grease up them splines. You don't want to go too heavy, because now make sure you clean out the inside of your drum as well. I better just double check. Make sure I did a good job. Get all the contaminants. Service data tells you to use, I think, mineral spirits. That's kind of what this is. They just say you don't want any residue. Yeah, I cleaned her. Clean as a whip. Yeah. There she is, right to the edge of the shoes. Looks good. Let's make sure we didn't just shove a pile of grease in there. No, we didn't actually. Huh. I thought I was going to push more off those splines. No, sir. But that should keep her from seizing up. And then the next thing we have to do is we probably should clean this outer edge here. It's really not that bad. You know, one thing we didn't do, I don't know if this thing's clocked. I could pop the O-ring back off and find out. Either that or I freaking nailed it the first try. Oh, it must be okay. We could always assume too we could put the crappy end down, because that's probably where the moisture settles. Alright, the other thing I bought is I bought the seal, which I assume is this seal here. That's my assumption. Which must go on from the outside. I don't know how hard it's in there. Let me set it down here. Well, it doesn't pop out too bad. I just stuck my pry bar in the backside and knocked it out just in case we needed to salvage it, or I got the wrong one. I want to completely destroy it. Hopefully that helps slide it in a little easier. I figured we could probably go like that most of the way. There we go. Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. You run her till she hits bottom, boys. Alright. Lube it up. Run her all the way, because that's as far as it's got to go. Okay, perfect. So now that that's in all the way, I did wipe this out pretty decently. If I was at the shop, I'd probably wire wheel around the edge of it, but at the end of the day, it seals around this O-ring anyways. I don't know, it's got like this weird scuff mark in it here. I don't know what that is. That would have been at the very bottom, so we're going to stick that at the very bottom again. Like I say, it seals around the O-ring there, so not a big deal. Alright, let's lube her up. Oh, need to get me one of them fancy ATV lifts. Silglide, not a sponsor. It's the Astro Glide for O-rings. We'll goop this baby up nice. That'll help keep a good seal. It'll also help slip it in. And then we don't have to worry about it damaging the O-ring. Sometimes some petroleum-based stuff will really mess up some O-rings if they're not made for it. I don't know what the book said to use, but I know with Sil Glide we're safe. Because you're safe when you use Sil Glide. That should be their motto. I don't think it is. They probably don't even have a motto, to be honest with you. Why would they? Alright, she's good and greasy. Eliminates squeaks, prevents rust, and weatherproofs. Provides a long-lasting, protective lubricating film. Safe and effective on rubber, metal, wood, glass, and plastic. Super film strength. Won't melt, freeze, gum, or run off. Effective from -20F to 400F. And harmless to your car's finish. Super lube. Oh no, Sil Glide. Gosh, I just promoted the wrong company. Putting the scuffy part at the bottom. Ooh. Ooh. Hello. There she is. She's all lined up. Make sure it's all lined up, because it might be like a old Chrysler torque converter. You know, you get them all in and then there's that last one. If you know, you know. I think it was Dodge. Maybe it was Ford. One of them. Somebody does it somewheres. I think it was Ford, because didn't they use studs on their converters? I don't know. It was whoever uses studs on their converter. I don't know. There's always one that was always off just a little bit. You had to measure it. Mark your flywheel. You should have just marked your flywheel before you pulled the, or mark your flex plate before you pulled the transmission. Ayo, look at that. Okay, they're all in. We're gonna go number 1 on the Oogie Doogie torque setting. And we will finish it with a handy here. That's a Craftsman wrench, the torquing kind, in case you didn't hear it. Use your noodle on these. I think that's aluminum that it goes into. I'm not 100% positive on that, but use your noodle. Those are small bolts. Don't go whacking it down on a number 4. The old number 4. Now she's part Yamaha, part John Deere. I cannot promote the lock and loop connector coupler enough. If you don't have one, get one. I don't have one at work, but I have one at home. But honestly, at work I rarely use the grease gun. Right? Isn't that weird? I still have some older customers that come in and want a lube, oil, and filter. Like, honey, you better go back to 1980 because grease fittings are a thing of the past. Most of the older folks that come in that want a grease job, they'll call it grease. I need a grease job or lube oil filter. They're driving like a 2022, whatever. Grease fittings on cars left the shed a long time ago. So here's our hub. Now it does appear, I didn't look in service data, but it appears that this is some sort of seal out here as well. it's rubbery feeling. I would bet it keeps stuff from migrating down the shaft, you know, just like when you do a, you know, like a pinion seal. Some manufacturers have you put silicone, you know, RTV, put the washer on, or they'll have you RTV the splines, you know, before you put the yoke on, to keep gear oil, in that case, from migrating out. So this style seal here, you need to make sure that you lubricate this lip, this outer lip, because it actually, like a pinion, like some pinion seals actually, you know, pushes against this outer face here. So it seals, you know, like a regular lip seal, but then it has this outer flange. Probably has some sort of special name. We don't know what it is. Oh yeah. Ooh. You can see how the seal wants to kind of push it back off a little bit, or the excessive amount of grease that we used. We can't roll it, and marking our nut there in the beginning was completely pointless. So the one here on the left is our cable adjuster. This is for our left hand brake. Now what I do is, probably could read the directions, but up on the cable adjuster, up on the handlebar, I just screw that all the way back in and maybe out like 2 or 3 threads, you know, so you still got a lot of room for cable free play up there. And then I just ran the brakes out, you know, there's still plenty of movement, so make sure they're backed off all the way, and then just take and run the adjusters up, you know, so there's still free play in the brakes. And then we'll go drive it, we'll seat them in. Probably should have checked this bolt. This is supposed to be a bolt and a washer. Does not feel that promising here. Of course, now we look at this after we put the whole thing all back together. I imagine it is a drain. But if you got water in there, you're probably got bigger problems. Yeah, so it is just a washer. Yeah. Well, let's see if it'll thread in. If not, I'll have to bring home a thread chaser from work. It doesn't even go into the very bottom. Oh, maybe it's an inspection hole, I don't know. Yeah, like I say, it doesn't feel wonderful. And as crooked as all get out, it looks like. Yeah, so somebody started that thing wicked. Oh, actually the bolt itself is bent, because as I turn it, the gap becomes, you know, the gap on the top, then the gap on the bottom, then on the top. So it's definitely, we'll just have to get a new bolt. I'll just tighten that up. Yeah, because the gap changes all the way. That's interesting. I wonder how the head of it got bent without shearing it off, you know what I mean? We'll just take and snug it up and either pretend we didn't see it, or we'll get a new bolt for it at some point. We do have to order that O-ring anyways the next time that we put in an order. 110 foot-pounds on this. Let's see if we can do this without it moving. I did put the parking brake on, but alright, we're way past where we started. Oh, look at that. I'll be dipped. It actually lined up on a hole. That's about a 1 in 700 trillion chance. Make sure you get a new split pin. Unless you don't have one, then just reuse the old one, like everybody else in the world. You guys didn't think I owned a torque wrench, did you? It's actually a Mac Tools one, before you start picking on me about that. it's old and it's probably not calibrated. We do always zero it out. These spring types, you always got to make sure you wind them back. Now I got to go all the way. Mac Tools, USA version, huh? Back before they went all China on us. Oh yeah, you know what? I actually have a hammer out here. Look at this guy. Every tool's a hammer, even a hammer. Oh, we got to straighten that up. We get down to the ATV show. Perfect. Oh, perfect. Oh yeah, it's better when you whisper. Let's get our wheel. Tire assembly here. I think we did a good job. Well, we'll know when we can stop. The brakes feel kind of mushy right now, in my opinion. We'll get the torque spec on these as well. I'm gonna guess probably somewhere's in the 45-ish pound range. Should have just guessed 40. We're snug. But now you're doing it. Probably just as good as an outdated out of calibration torque wrench, right? Alright, good deal. I let the cat out of the bag. I bought one. It doesn't work, but I got it. Low mileage too. 570 something. Where does it say? 575. Low miles, 04. Runs like poo. Like terrible. Still got the OEM tires on it. No broken plastic. She's been fondled with a few times. So it needs some work. But I think we can get through it. Mice got after it a little bit. Doesn't look too major to me. Of course, the guy did us a favor, put the new carb on it, and threw away the OEM McCuney carb like a moron, and put this $29 Chinesium four-wheeler on there. Oh, and he also did us a favor. He said he took that old crappy old choke cable and threw that in the garbage. We got our nice made in China choke cable on there that doesn't work. The machine runs like the choke stuck on, or the enricher circuit. We're going to throw that carburetor right in the trash where it belongs. Put an OEM carb back on it. I think that'll get us back in shape for the most part, but there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be unfondled. So, and then Mrs. O's machine's working like a champ. So, got a couple more things to do on that, and we'll be good to go. So let's take old Big Bear here for a rip. Brakes work. I guess that's it, folks. They seem to work. I feel like they need to be broken a little bit. I'll go ride it up and down the gas line here in the power line and get some long downhills and burnish them in the best you can on an ATV. Probably rip it up and down the road. We got there's a really long hill out here, so maybe we'll do that. Get them seated in, double check the adjustment, and that's it, move on. So it seemed pretty easy, pretty standard procedure there. Nothing looks like it's falling off, so that's a plus. And like I say, next time I put in an order through Yamaha, which will probably be soon to fix that Grizzly up, I'll get the O-ring and we'll pop that drum back off for what it's worth. I don't think it's going to make a big difference. Like I said, I think it just keeps anything from migrating up or down those splines. So it's made it this long. Who knows how long it's been without having an O-ring there. The other thing this machine needs, it needs a valve adjustment horribly. So we need to do that. They get pretty clattery when they get hot, which is kind of the opposite of what you would think. I think it's valve adjustment. That's what it sounds like. I just saw that owl. You guys probably didn't see. Maybe if you rewind the video when we were just popping over this gas line, he flew across. It was pretty cool. It was a great big owl. I hear him up there hooting now, so probably hear some turkeys gobbling here in a minute. Damn, owls don't get along, I guess. So that's it. Why don't you guys get along in that comment section, and we'll see you in the next one.